Assalamu alaikum, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Welcome to Study Al-Islam, another week to see everyone, and it is just a joy, and it's a great strength for us to join together like this in a good spirit to learn more about each other, to share warm salams between us, and just to be able to use this technology that is very difficult and challenging for many people, but it has enabled us to come together. So we are forever grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today is an exciting personal program for me. I have my daughter, Naimah, and my son-in-law, Greg. They have been married for 5 years, and today's topic is on branding your business. Not just branding your business, but the masjid, any services that you might provide. So in introducing my son-in-law, Greg Fisk, and Naimah Muhammad, a power couple, like so many other power couples in our community. Our young people are really making us very proud of them. They are the answer to many of our prayers. They've been married for 5 years. Greg is a talented and skilled graphic designer. He designed the packaging for the academic examination of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He also designed the brochures that we used this last weekend or 2 weekends ago at the conference, and he will be designing the cover of the DVD that will be available in about 2 weeks on the conference that we honored Imam Wadathuddin Muhammad. May he be forgiven his sins and be in the highest place in paradise. So Naimah has 3 careers. Naimah is a singer-songwriter. Naimah works with a team at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., where they produce public programming. And Naimah works at Universal Music in Los Angeles, California. They are up 3 hours. They're 3 hours behind us. And so we're grateful to have them. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn the mic over to Gregory. And Sister Matala just texted me to say that the center in Greensboro, North Carolina, had windows. They brought a beautiful facility in Greensboro, North Carolina, but it was a church. And so in their renovations, in their windows, I think it was like 21 windows, they had symbols of the cross. And Greg, my son-in-law, designed the windows, and they and in each window now is an attribute of Allah, and so that's the talent of Greg Fisk, and how he makes a valuable contribution to our community. So without any further ado, please, Greg, why don't you begin?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Obviously, it's such an honor to be here today, so thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
First off, I want to say assalamu alaikum to our whole community. And Greg and I have been behind the scenes for a lot of the Study Al-Islam initiatives from just anything that my mom wants to do, or any way of like bringing us all together through the visual identity and ability to preserve any of this historic moments we've been a part of. So we're just so grateful to be a part of that and to lend our time in that ability and to share this with you, because I find on my side, from like the marketing and strategy side, that sometimes we don't always understand exactly what graphic design is. And some people are just saying, oh, it's like just a logo or just, my business card. But in this day and age, design and branding is so much more of that, from whether it's like in the space of where you are physically, from like the building that you might be in and the murals you might see, or just in so many different platforms, it's a part of it. So, I'm very grateful that we can kind of look at that and show that how important design is to our everyday experiences.
Yes, I must say that they keep me very relevant and support me in all of my efforts, and it is because of their work in supporting me that they find time that I was able to move forward with Study Al-Islam now being on Zoom. And
the website and all of that behind the scenes work, all of that falls into the world of design and of branding and graphic design. So, and I apologize, I just wanted to say it now that I've been sick, so I will try to not be coughing too much, but if I run away, that is why.
Thank you.
But here we go.
Cool, so I'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, to kind of echo off that just before I dive in. Yeah, it's hard for me to say I'm a graphic designer, because that could mean so many different things. Like Naimah mentioned, it's such an umbrella. We'll dive into that a little bit about the specifics of what I do. But I have my own design studio, and my mission at Fisk studio is to push the boundaries of how technology, research, and storytelling can all kind of come together to help shape new and timeless design experiences. So what that's really saying is that, there are three different components. There's storytelling, so there's a narrative you're always trying to voice to an audience. And then there's the technology in which you make that happen. And then none of that happens without any thorough research and deep dive understanding of what you're trying to execute. So primarily, we're based in LA, and the work that we focus on is typography, illustration, motion graphics. That's imagine cartoons or maybe the title sequence to a movie. So if you see anything moving on screen, that would be motion graphics. And then there's branding systems, and what I'll talk a lot about today is that, and that's just kind of the whole approach behind a brand and every element that can go into that. And then I just do anything with websites, anything on web. Study Al-Islam, that was one thing I continually work on. Experiential design, so let's say you're interacting with a building, or maybe it's a mural on the street. Lately I've been getting more into even augmenting reality, so having things come to life on your phone that are in the physical space but not actually there. So it's almost like creating an optical illusion. Over the years, I've had the privilege to work with some pretty big clients. These are a few of them.
Study Al-Islam included.
Included Study Al-Islam. It's a very important one. So yeah, a lot of the work day to day is, for instance, I work a lot with Venmo. And when you think of Venmo, you think of this app on your phone where you send people money. But behind the scenes, and what Venmo is actually doing is they'll have about 5 different campaigns going on all at the same time. And each one of those campaigns will require a brand or a look and a feel, and it should feel a little bit different from the main Venmo brand. So my job day to day would be to create those brands and tell those stories. So just to dive into this even more, like what is branding and why is it so important, and why should everyone have, you know, a strong representation of themselves, whatever that business might be. I had a professor, you know, in college, you kind of said it best. You as a person are your own personal brand. So you wake up every day, you put on a certain type of clothes, you wanna dress nice, and before you go out and step into the world, you want to be represented to your best ability. You know, mustaqim. So I carry that with me, and I think about branding in the same way. Like, what hat am I going to wear? What shoes am I going to put on? That's like the analogy there. So branding is the art and science of influencing perception about a product, service, or organization. So it's very sometimes artistic. You know, you're responding to a feeling, and that's what you're trying to create. Or it's very scientific. You know, a lot of the websites I'll create, they're all very gridded, they're on a structure. There's a million considerations to have top of mind while you're making visuals. So this is a quote from famous graphic designer, you know, I've followed since I started designing. But he says, you know, a good logo is the pleasure of recognition and the promise of meaning. So if you look at a logo, you know, you might not directly have an initial reaction to it, or you do. It creates a feeling. But if you experience that logo, you know, a million times, it's going to create this brand recognition and this value behind it. And then you should create logos that will stand the test of time. So one thing I'll do is I'll create a lot of logo options if I'm taking on a brand, and I'll narrow in on something that I think is going to live up. So like 20 years from now, there might be a brand that needs to still be relevant, and like, how am I going to create that? So why do big and small companies or individuals put so much effort into creating their logos, choosing a typeface, what colors they use, you know, what goes into the branding? And that is, you know, to increase brand recognition, to increase brand value. And that's, you know, for your company, but also within your company. So if you have a strong brand, your employees are going to be, you know, perceiving that experience well a little bit better. You want to attract new customers, create loyal new customers, build trust, create emotional connections. So you want to, you know, be relevant to people, and you want to stay relevant and timeless. So you don't want to, you know, have a logo that's representing a certain era that doesn't make sense anymore. So what are the visual makeups of a brand? This is going back to earlier where, you know, you have this huge umbrella of things that go into a brand. And I think that's why I chose this profession. It's got like a little bit of everything. So there's this umbrella of logo, there's typography, that's what typeface you're using. Color, iconography. Icons are usually used for navigation, to make information a little more clear. All this can be comprised in a layout. There's illustration, animation, websites, social media. It's far-reaching. Here's a picture of Times Square. You know, whether you like it or not, you're force-fed all this advertising every day. The average person is now estimated to encounter 6,000 to 10,000 ads every single day. That's like subconsciously you're being fed advertisements. So for me personally, you know, I want to put good things into the advertising world. I want people to feel good about what they're perceiving. And maybe that's through making a clean, minimal brand, or just selling an experience that's impactful on community. The graphic design market, it's, every year it's going up, but the most recent statistic was it's worth $13.3 billion. And that's just growing exponentially. So it's an industry that you want to be a part of. So for me, like as a Muslim in America, it's instrumental and, super important to be a part of this visual economic conversation. Over the year, I've had a lot of opportunities to explore some really great projects, things I find impactful, meaningful. So what I wanted to do is walk you through a few of those. I see a hand raised. Are we taking questions towards the end? Okay, so I'll dive into a project that I just did. So I'll start here with Smithsonian. Excuse me while it loads. Great. So this is a brand I did over the course of 2 years. And I imagine you all are pretty familiar with the Smithsonian, but it's an institution that's been around for, over 100 years. And they approached me originally just to design like some basic newsletters and things like that. But when I was hired to do that, I started running into problems with the brand, and it hadn't been touched in over 20 years. So when they first designed the logo, times were a little bit different. There wasn't this digital landscape or this expansive sort of universe in which a logo would have to live. So I presented this problem where, how do we take the Smithsonian forward into a new light? And what are some like simple updates we can do to the logo to make it more accessible? So what you'll see here is the first iteration of the logo, which was done 20 years ago. And the major difference, which is very subtle, but you'll see this sun in the middle. Excuse me, my cat. About to end the Zoom. So you'll see this sun, and then there's a circle around it, which is representative of the sky. And what I've noticed when I was working with it is it's touching that border. What that did for me is it created sort of a little bit of visual tension, and it made it difficult to read. So what I did is I added a little bit of space around the sun, and then I started to rethink different portions or proportions of the logo. One major difference is, they used to go by Smithsonian Institution. To make it more widely usable, we just narrowed it down to the word Smithsonian. And this is that science that goes in design, where everything's very calculated, and there's, different measurements that make up the visual information that you're viewing. And then again, this is a branding system. We went through the color palette. So revisited the colors. And I did all these different color variations of the same logo. And then one thing that was pretty major is the Smithsonian is 20 different entities. There's different museums, institutions, research facilities. I had to create a brand that could co-brand within all these other different brands. So I used this, again, back to the science, it's rule of thirds, to create a system to implement the Smithsonian with every name.
And I'll just jump in from the other side. So one of the roles that I do is in public programming and outreach and marketing, and I work with the National Museum of Natural History. And so this whole update of the Smithsonian logos and identity marks across the institution, whether it's the Museum of African American History and Culture, whether it's American History, whether it's the Asian Pacific American Center, all these different groups, especially we entered 2020, just entering modern times. Like the Smithsonian, we are trying to compete with so many top level organizations who are not federally funded, but are, privately owned, like National Geographic, like the other, high level educational centers that, are competing for people's time, information, and relevance, like in their homes and in their families and in where they want to spend their time. And these logo marks, believe it or not, have been key to how we decide to get an advertisement, whether it's in Washington Post or whether it's online on a national level, and now offering programs digitally. All of this like design and branding information. And oftentimes when we like promote a program, like the first thing that people are going to decide whether they're interested or not is based on the design, is based on like the visual identity, based on the color. And if it's not meeting that mark, if it feels outdated, if it feels like irrelevant, if it's not competing with other types of experiences and quality and visual identity that people are used to, they're not even going to pay attention to it. So this has been instrumental from my side on like the public outreach side of it, to have like the design and the brand keep up with the times. So, I experienced on the other end of just like the public experience of knowing that if we're not competing and keeping things up to date and keeping things relevant, vibrant, clear, streamlined, like keeping with the trends of the times, like you're going to lose the audience. So I kind of just jump in on like how useful this was on the other end of like getting the people and like engaging with the people.
Thank you.
So we're going to go quickly through this. We don't have a lot of time, so we're going to fly through. We just wanted to pick up 3 kind of different experiences, going back to what Greg was saying with like, different landscapes and the importance of, as Muslims, as a person of color, like all these experiences in a space that oftentimes doesn't create that space for us, like being a voice to interject in that and kind of hold true and like put a foot down for representation and to bring that into any work that we're doing, whether it's in the design, whether it's like and how people are represented through design, how, just all those experiences are kind of brought together through the work that we're doing. And so this was a mural that took place in Washington, D.C., the Resilience mural. Greg designed and laid out this whole mural design experience that was then painted in Washington, D.C. And it was, you go ahead, that's your
Yes, I can talk to the designer a little bit. Yeah, well, I'll be quick.
And more like the experience of like the relevance in the community, I think is more important here.
Yeah, so, when this design was put up in DC, we were in lockdown. There was a lot going on politically, and, people were being challenged. And so we put up just a reminder to stay resilient. And we wanted this, this single word to be able to quickly be represented. People would stand in front of it, take a picture, they're feeling resilient. They're feeling, this vibrant sort of awakening when they walk by. And we painted not only just the mural, but the, oh, sorry. We painted, not the mural, but also the sidewalk. So when you're,
Greg, this mural won an award, is that correct?
yes.
It's behind us.
Yeah, I won a couple of awards.
A few of them.
Um,
But the whole experience here, so just, I'm going to fly through this, but this mural actually linked to a web page that Greg also designed of resources for folks or for individuals struggling with the COVID pandemic who were looking for ways of support, ways of, whether it's supporting their businesses or their personal, just like all that wealth of information. It started with this huge visual identity in person, and then linked while you were there to this website where, you could learn more and find support. And so it's kind of taking this like, passing moment of like, oh, what is this resilience? And then directing it to like a real cause. So you kind of have like this double role coming together of just people wanting to come together, whether there's like photos or very casual but also for folks looking for real support and real resources during the pandemic.
I would like to make this relevant to the community.
Yeah.
So I want to just say to all of the cities, if you have blank walls in your area, in your neighborhood, you can use this kind. Naimah, speak to that in term. You and Greg speak to the idea that we could use those walls to send our messages. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So typically, whether it's with the businesses that are in that organization or through the city, you know, through like the city's programs, but these are all spaces and opportunities to bring people together. So absolutely, like for this, we worked with
Capital One.
Yeah, but also like with a female-led painter. I don't know if it's called like a painter, but just like there's so many different ways of even like including different on different levels through experiences like this and through projects like this. So it's like a great way of getting a big message out at all times of the day, and then working together on so many different layers to, you know, represent the community and include the community. So absolutely.
And especially from a historical perspective, because we could, you could very well put up a mural on a wall that's on the side of your building, or any blank wall like this. Make it special. This could tell a story of the history of the community, and so think of it in those terms.
Yes.
That they do this for the Smithsonian and those huge those larger companies, but this is also used to tell stories about the community. And so you know, the messages that are working with the city officials, when you see a blank wall, think of that wall as being a wall that you could tell a story about your neighborhood. I'm sorry?
Yeah. I said, yeah, it's an opportunity right there for a message.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, you know, visual storytelling is so powerful and it just sparks dialogue. So if there's something that you're trying to convey, or, you know, trying to communicate within your community, it's just a great opportunity to get, you know, the conversation out there, is a visual forward approach. This is another project I want to quickly walk through, is for Venmo. And this is actually virtual greeting cards. So on the Venmo app, instead of just sending a message with your payment or gift, you can send a visual greeting card along with that. This is a little video I created. We'll show it. Let's take a look.
You know, there's a question of how the message should, how can the message, oh, go ahead.
So that was, I missed a question. I mean, what was that?
Where's the Eid one? The reason I wanted him to show this is that for the first time, Eid was included in this experience. So it was a huge deal and went through so many different layers of approvals and reviews and everything to get this out there. But you know, they had like all the other, you know, Christmas and all the other holidays were represented in this experience on Venmo. And this past year, Eid was included too. So we were very excited.
Yeah, this is one of those experiences where, you know, I'm in a meeting and they're, you know, distributing what work people are going to be doing. And I had the ability to speak up and say, I want to do Eid, and be, you know, represented. And I finally felt that way. You know, you go through these holiday campaigns and branding, and it's never around Eid. So this is very significant to me and meaningful.
And apparently had like one of the highest or a huge engagement. So, kind of put a plug of Muslims we're relevant to, like include us.
Yeah.
But like from a company that's very, like a corporate company, to see the engagement and the reaction from the public side of using this, that's where, it kind of comes together of showing the importance of like including that voice in the landscape of design. So I guess I say that to say, also make sure that when you see these things that you are also engaging with it, because it just helps across the board to increase our ability and our visibility to advocate for representation.
Exactly.
I think that answers, don't change this ship, but I think that answers Sultana's question. Her question was, or is, how can the message change their brand? I don't think the messages need to change their brand. I think they need to emphasize their brand. Yep. I think that's what we need to strengthen, and that is to emphasize our brands. Because we have a very strong brand. Go ahead, Naimah. Mm-hmm.
No. I was going to say anything. But we do see it left and right. Like when we are doing, whether it's programs or events, partnering with museum or partnering with masjids or even organizations within the community, we see, oftentimes like there isn't a real logo, or there isn't that piece to it that we oftentimes have to create to fill that gap. But I would say like just starting with that, like having that logo ready and designed in a format that's shareable, and then everything else built from there, where everything else is kind of built upon it.
And you also get into the conversation around how to engage the younger Muslim community, and visually that's your way in. And if you want to be inclusive of everyone at the masjid, like maybe there's a young graphic designer at your masjid that you could engage with. It could be their first big client project. How exciting would that be, to step up and pick the typeface and help visualize what the experience could be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that it's very important to realize that one of the benefits that Study al-Islam has had is to emphasize the talents of everyone. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we have done enough to emphasize the talents of our young people who are artists, who are visual artists, who have graphic designs talent and ability, because we've placed so much emphasis and importantly, very important, on our spiritual development. Of course, that is the foundation of everything we do. But building upon that is so much talent in this community. And so Gregory had the opportunity to design this piece for Vimeo. I'm sorry?
For Venmo.
Okay, Venmo. And but go ahead. But what if next year, inshallah, that maybe your young people who are creative and talented could send Gregory some ideas. Naimah's probably going to strangle me after this program, but could send their ideas to Gregory. So if he has another opportunity to create an image like this, it could be an idea that was sparked and designed from one of your young people. This is what we have to do. We have to support our young people in all of their talents, because Allah created them for a purpose. And Gregory is just showing you how important his graphic design skills are. But we have so many young people who are talented and who are the next great graphic designers in our community.
Yeah, I remember, thinking back on my story about finding design. I didn't really know what it was. And so, someone had to tell me that you should be a graphic designer. And that's what sparked my interest, and to look it up and maybe take a class on it. It wasn't widely talked about. And so just knowing what's possible is a big thing. So, sharing is caring.
I mean, this was a blessing. What was this image used for again?
So this was a virtual greeting card. During Eid, if you sent someone a gift, or even you sent your masjid zakat, this image would go along with that payment. So other people using the app would see this come up on their screen, and they'd be like, whoa, where'd that come from? What's this mean? And then they could also send a payment using the same image. And so then you're spreading this Eid greeting around, and it ended up being almost 1 million impressions. So during Eid this year, 1 million people sent this virtual greeting card.
Wow.
And you know,
go ahead.
I used to work for Hallmark, and that's like an insane amount of interactions with one thing, because Hallmark was print, but now we're in this digital landscape. So this, you know, has such a bigger reach, and it's just visually interesting. You know, it can animate and make it come to life.
So Gregory, you know, I'm always excited by the graphic design that is animated. Can you share any more animation with us? Is there anything for the B-boys? My son-in-law is a break dancer on the side. That's one of his talents, is that he break dances. Do you have any images from your breakdancing that you are designing for the B-boys?
Let's see.
Or any other animation, because I love the animation.
Yeah, let me go to my work.
Yeah, and our computer's running a little slow for some reason, so I apologize for that.
So again, while they're looking for
the last thing I wanted to say, because I was so inspired when we heard the presentation about Supreme Burgers and Supreme Fish and Supreme Foods, and what is the Fitcher Farms and all of those food and those food companies, and thinking about just the packaging and the experience, especially when Brother Waleed was talking about expanding the business into the airports and into all these locations across the nation. All of that, we were thinking like, wow, that is a branding experience in itself. So inshallah, we will be speaking with him. But those are the kind of ways of convening businesses with design and seeing opportunities to like meet each other along the way. So I said that because he just finished a project with Beyond Meat with their packaging and their rebranding of that food company. So, you know, we're looking at ways in that space and through this program, learning about other businesses. And we hope that from this too, we will hear more business opportunities and ventures that are happening within the community to see what our partnerships can look like. Let's see what we possible to establish a virtual reference. Oh, interesting. That is a great idea. We were also thinking of what was it? Camp Khalil, their summer program, doing a program with the youth there for design. But yeah, I think we should, if there is already some kind of platform for this, for the youth that we can tap into to lead a program, a virtual program, then absolutely. Yes.
So what is this build for everyone?
Right. So this is, I wanted to show you this just because it was, you know, animation, but this was for Google, and it was, you know, designing all these different web experience oriented illustrations. And this is for their like recruiting platform within Google. So to find maybe underrepresented talent, they would they created this program. And so I created all these different animations that represent these different words.
I don't see anything.
I was like, you're not sharing.
Oh. Oh no.
Naimah, while he's pulling that up, why don't you share with us what your responsibilities are with Fisk Studios, since you're certainly adding a lot of commentary.
as the woman who is the educator and leader and pioneering the family. No, I'm just kidding. I am the one holding it together while Greg is the creative brain with the ideas running left and right. I am maintaining the ability to do the work, to work with each other, to do the communications, the strategy, the business side, the all of the behind the scenes coordination that keeps things streamlined and operating is what I'm doing. Just like what I do with my mom's work, everything that allows me to keep people have the ability to do the work and communicate and stay on course and with each other. That's my role.
Yeah, we
Right.
complement each other. I'm usually the artist all over the place, and she keeps me grounded and focused.
Yeah, and our screen share is just not working today, so we are just going to take this down and get ready for some questions. I don't know what's happening.
Let me see if Beyond Meat is, since it's not moving. I think the animation are just lagging. Let's see if this works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you all are familiar with Beyond Meat, but it's a meat alternative that's widely sold throughout America. And this was a rebrand I did, or a brand update. So one of the main things is they used to be called Beyond Meat, and that was in their logo. What I did is I decided to remove meat from the logo. And this solved a lot of problems for them with their packaging. So now they have this extra real estate where they could be beyond anything. So beyond sausage, beyond breakfast sausage, beyond burger, beyond jerky. It just became a usable system. So this is the old one, Beyond Meats. And this is the new update where I, made the font bolder, more impactful.
The color too, a little bit brighter.
Yeah, and this is like a whole color palette that I introduced into the brand. So one thing I'll say is this is such a big company to where any of these small changes have such a wide impact, and it's such an impact that it costs a lot of money. So when you make these design decisions early on, it's better to like establish the look and feel with like an expansive system that's going to work and play out over time. This is kind of a reverse of that, where I was going back through what they had on shelves and recreating, improvising, and making better, and it is not loading.
Yeah, and I think that just the last thing we'll say, and then if we can get into questions, but whether it's the Beyond Meats or the Smithsonian's or our messages, I think the key here is that we're all competing for the attention of the individual, and doing that first and foremost is that experience with this design, like is with that ability to grab the attention, to keep up, to like visually have a clear identity where you're like, oh, what is this? So all of this, whether from any scale, that's what we're all trying to do here. So I think like looking back at the old brand for just Beyond Meat versus the new, like the color changes or the update of the font, that was their attempt to stay relevant. We're all just trying to stay relevant, and doing that through the design is where it comes in, of helping to tell that story, helping to engage that individual or consumer, wherever it is in the landscape of what we're doing, all of that. And yes, it is incorporated. Yep. LLC. Yep. Yes. Yep.
Fisk LLC.
And also, yes, trained also in user experience. What is UI?
User interface.
Yes, I'm learning things every day.
I'll also say.
So tell me, how important is color? I see all of these different colors. How important is that?
So this was a huge change for them, and it took a lot of experimenting. And I actually had to go to the grocery store and look at every package in its display. And what I'm looking for is, what are people standardized, or what's expected in this particular visual landscape. So in all of the meat packaging or meat substitute packaging, what's the most common reoccurring visual theme? And for me as a designer, a brand guy, I'm trying to take all that information and then create something different that's going to stand out. So what I noticed on the shelves is everything was white or, you know, very minimal and clean looking. There wasn't a lot of color. So for Beyond Meat, I went with this dark green. And now if you go to the grocery store, look for this and you'll see it stands out. Like, so color is everything for me. And I'm just a very visual person. And I feel like I've, you know, through Islam and through experience, I've just grown to look at things a certain way. And all that information that I explore, you know, with school, with like spiritually, it just helps influence the design decision and the design thinking that goes into everything I'm creating in these brands.
So I guess I'm not going to see anything on the B-Boys.
No, we can't. Yes, no. I'm going to say no. What? Yeah, I don't know what
So
we have
this is
yet, the B-Boys.
so
This was an instrumental moment for me. I went to the grocery store and for the first time I saw my product on the shelf. You know, something I designed, and it was just at the grocery store, and it was just such a powerful feeling. So I took a photo on my phone. And here it is.
great. Congratulations. So are you able to share your website with us? I mean, visually, so we could kind of go through just to see some of the other projects that you have. I like visuals, you know that. So if we could take these last few minutes, maybe.
Yeah, are you going to share the website?
But I do, as you're,
It just might be, the problem is it's being a little laggy this morning, so I don't want to have a bunch of buffering time, but I'm going to also put the link in.
Yeah, I was just going
to. So as you're preparing, I want to have the conversation about the masjids, the community identifying empty walls. There's grants for that in your city. For developing those kinds of things. And so those visuals, you go into many communities. As a matter of fact, it was just recently in our community that they were boycotting putting up a Marilyn Monroe mural in Shaw in Washington, D.C. because they didn't feel that Marilyn Monroe represented the history of Shaw, and by their collective efforts, they were able to. Now, when you go through Shaw, where I live in Washington D.C., which is a historical African American community of many great leaders, you see all of their pictures, some representation of them in the community. So it's a long, when you establish those kinds of murals, they tell such a great story. And so again, I want to encourage each city to begin to look in their particular neighborhoods for empty walls, and rather than to have graffiti that maybe doesn't represent anything, you could look at whether there's a grant in your city to develop that wall so it can be paid for by a professional graphic designer and contributed by some of your young artists.
Yes. I was going to say, we need to say that, and alhamdulillah, I've seen that progress within our community in DC, but within our announcements, whether it's in our newsletters or at the Jumas, like having that moment of sharing these opportunities and, making sure that our leadership is creating space and awareness for those designers or artists to be seen and to to even recognize themselves, to be asked the question of, do we have, you're going to get the answer back of yes. And we don't know until you put that conversation out there to get it back. So I would say the thing we can all start doing now is just finding out what that talent pool is, because I know it's there across our cities. I know it has to be there, and we just need to amplify that voice.
Yeah, and for me, I'm a professor as well. I teach at Micah in Baltimore, and one thing I also try to do is give back to the community. So if anyone has a young up-and-coming designer or artist that wants to learn more about graphic design, always feel free to reach out. My website URL is in here. There's a contact page there. I'm very, very responsive, so always feel free to reach out. The other thing I'll say about the murals is every city has an allocated budget for putting up murals, and there's grant opportunities. If we're trying to help the young community, maybe we have a skill set that's applied to grant writing, and we could help write the grants to get the money to put up the murals. So that's something to to keep top of mind as well.
Well, have we come to the end of your presentation? Is there anything that I'm not going to get any bebop images, so b-boy images. So
that's not design, that's just dancing.
Well, I love Gregory's animation in his design. And so I'm always excited by what he's able to, what he's capable of making move. But anyway, so any last minute comments before? Have you answered all the questions? And if there's no last minute comments, I'm going to make announcements and close in dua.
And I'm just sorry, I just want to say these comments, reading these comments and having this opportunity to engage has been such a blessing in itself.
Yes.
This also I'm sure no one knew that we were here doing this. So this is just such a great blessing to share, what we're doing, share our skills, and connect with each other in this space. So thank you for allowing us this moment, even though we're in Los Angeles and it's very early.
But also, Gregory helped you tremendously with your video of Born to be a Fighter. Isn't that correct?
That is true. Yeah. So me being the person I am, I also pushed the limits of what Greg's willing to do. So I did 2 lyric videos at this point that we worked on together, with creating the visual identity for that, for the brand for that. My Born to be a Fighter, I do music as well, but my Born to be a Fighter song, when I released it, the goal was it was on the cusp of Black History Month and also kind of entering Women's History Month. So I kind of tag teamed both by highlighting Black women and Black Muslim women and the leaders that I featured in my lyric video, and also in the tandem of just different leaders within within the community and within different professional fields of just how all these threads came together. And the video was actually used within schools, within different campaigns. It was shared at a congressional event. It was just it went so far, and it was so amazing to see what we did in the pandemic at home take on this life of its own.
Can you share it with us? Can we
put the link, because I think it's going to be very laggy.
Share it with us right before we close out, because I think also.
Are we lagging? Can you hear when we're?
Yes, very well. Okay, yeah, I want them to share this, because this goes beyond just graphic design in terms of for promotion, but Naimah being a singer-songwriter, great. When you're ready, just pull it up. They're working together with Greg's graphic design skills. They were able to produce this video that, as Naimah told you, was produced at home with the two of them, and it was used in many campaigns. If we could just see that before we leave, this would be a great way for us to close out. Here's the video.
And the song was actually featured in Batwoman in a TV show. Yeah.
The series Batwoman.
Let's see. I don't know if we'll share my audio, so we'll see. No, I need to hold on. Sorry. It's not sharing my computer audio.
But this is a video that they created at home using footage, historical footage, in order to tell the story of Born to Be a Fighter that was featured on Batwoman, an original series. I think, how long did it take you guys to create this?
So long.
Well, the video, I mean, we did it in about a week, I think.
Then like the whole file deleted, we had to start all over.
If they did it in a week, it took 24 hours.
No, it took so long.
It was so long, and it was so tedious and difficult, and
but it was a learning experience, and you know, it made future projects with Naimah better.
Sorry, hold on.
And this is all from footage they gathered.
Claim the power, watch me break through every wall, see it crumble down. You won't ever see me fall. No, 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 no. I'm born to be a fighter, lift my head up higher, forge inside the fire. I am a warrior. Born to be a fighter. 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 No target is too far. I'm aiming for the mark. Been reaching from the start. I'll be victorious. Bring on the sticks and stones. I've learned to take control. You'll never break my soul. I'll be victorious. Watch me break through every wall. See it crumble down. You won't ever see me fall. No, 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 no. I'm born to be a fighter. Lift my head up higher. Forge inside the fire. I am a warrior. Born to be a fighter. Born to be a fighter. Born to be a fighter. Watch me break through every wall, see it crumble down. You will never see me fall. No, 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 no.
So this is just another way to use graphic design in your music, in your spoken word. And so it's unlimited. And it's all about whether you have the vision, the creativity, and the team, the talent, if this is for you to achieve this. So with that said, I want to thank my son-in-law, Greg, and Naimah Muhammad my gift from God. I am forever grateful. I want to just say that the DVD for the conference on Imam Wadathuddin Muhammad, may he be forgiven his sins and be in paradise, is going to be ready as soon as my son-in-law and my daughter finish their part in in the graphic design, so that it can be ready for sale. Don't forget, we still have available the academic examination of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which was the first conference we did at Zaytuna, an amazing conference on our history. And of course, this design is by my son-in-law, Greg. And I'm going to close with that. Wish everyone a blessed Sunday. Take time for yourself, smile, laugh, enjoy being together with family or walking alone in the park like I do many times. And I'm going to end with a dua. Is there any other questions, Naimah, that you can answer before we close? Greg?
I don't think so. Just thank you very much. Alhamdulillah. So very grateful, excited. So please reach out if there's anything you need in the graphic design space, even if that's just having me talk to a future designer about how they can start to pursue graphic design as a career. There's money to be made, and there's behaviors to change. So thank you.
Naimah, can you put in the chat how they can view Greg's website?
Yeah, I'll put it in. Yep. Okay.
Okay. And then we're going to close in a dua as soon as Naimah puts in the chat. But remember, every Saturday when the newsletter comes out, the program the week before is in the newsletter for you to listen to for the entire week. So in Saturday's newsletter is the program from last week when we talked about emergency readiness. Please, if you didn't see it, you need to see it, because we need to be prepared for any emergencies, especially with the crazy talk that's going on in the world right now. So take an opportunity to listen to it, and let us close in dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Oh Allah, I cannot manage this life myself without you. Please make my life what you want it to be, what you prefer it to be. Do not allow me to act on my own. Help me act only in obedience to you, Allah. We hear and we obey. Forgive us. We are asking for your forgiveness. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum. See you next week, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.